Second episode of tonight's Horatio Darks Between the Lines. So if I could get everybody up on the stage involved in the Eiffel Terror episode, please.
All 8 of us.
Yes.
It's 8 o'clock. Time to dim the lights, settle in close to your radio, and steel your nerves. WIND is taking you on a trip into the realm of the frightening and the bizarre. A trip between the lines of reality with your host, Horatio Dark. We now join the master of the macabre, the antiquarian of the insane, your navigator through the netherworld, Horatio Dark, as he reads Between the Lines of Reality.
I have my toothbrush, my bathing suit, I guess it's my other bathing suit. Is there anything else I need? Oh, hello there. You just caught me in the middle of my packing. Where am I going? Why, on vacation, of course. I'm going to beautiful Transylvania to visit family. I just can't help feeling as if I have forgotten to pack something, though. What is it? Ah, yes. I can't go anywhere without my trusty grave-digging shovel. You never know when you meet someone interesting that you'll have to just dig up. Well, I'm off on my vacation. Why don't you listen to tonight's spooky tale? It's a tale of a little girl who is also visiting family in a far-off country. But what happens is anything but a vacation. Find out tonight on the Eiffel Terror by Todd Gardner, here on Horatio Darks Between the Lines.
Welcome to another edition of Authors of Authority, a show in which we take the novel approach to interviewing authors about the inspirations for their books. Tonight, we're talking with Joan Goodman, author of The Eiffel Terror. So, Joan, I'm sorry, may I call you Joan?
Of course.
Oh, thank you, Joan. Well, now, Joan, I must say that you've really spun a fantastic tale in your novel, The Eiffel Terror. The events, as you've described them, are so unbelievable, so improbable that, well, they could have easily leapt from the pages of the ever-popular Penny Dreadfuls. But, Joan, now you say they're all true.
Every word of it.
Oh, how fascinating. Okay, let's jump right in then, shall we? Tell us where and when it all began.
Okay. My story, like so many great adventures, began in Paris. It was 1944. Paris had just been liberated by the brave men of the 4th Infantry Division, which was also, coincidentally, my father's unit. I was on the first trip anywhere. I left the familiar and relative safety of my Arkansas home and set out to visit my father, who called in some favors to arrange my passage on a military plane.
Good evening, everybody. We are cleared for our final approach to Orly Air Base. Please put up your tray tables and buckle your seatbelt. We'll be landing soon, and thank you again for flying with the United States Air Corps.
Pardon me, miss. I don't mean to bother you while you're sleeping, but we are landing soon. You might want to buckle your seatbelt.
What? Oh gosh. Thank you. I guess I must have dozed off.
Oh, that happens with these roundabout military flights. I do apologize for waking you.
Oh, that's fine. Hey, mister?
My name's Palmer. Basil Palmer. And you are?
I'm sorry. I'm Joan. Joan Goodman. It's nice to meet you, Basil.
The pleasure's mine, Joan. Might I ask if this is your first time flying?
Yes, sir. It is. I took an all-night bus from Arkansas to New York City, and then I took a plane to Scotland, and now here I am on this plane to France. Who knew the world was so big? It's been a long day, but golly, I'm so excited to visit my father.
That's very exciting indeed.
Yes, sir. It's even better that he's in Paris. I've wanted to go to Paris since forever. I feel like I belong there somehow. I can't wait to see it for myself.
Paris is absolutely smashing. The history, the wine, the architecture, the women. Ooh la la. Dreadfully sorry.
Ooh la la. That's French. I bet that all the women are fancy in Paris. They always look so strong and beautiful in the fashion magazines.
Yes, quite. All that's very true, young lady. Paris is a beautiful city with truly beautiful people. But Paris has been through a lot. I believe she'll come back even more beautiful than ever someday. So, how long is your stay?
I'm not sure.
You have no set schedule?
It depends entirely on my father. He's a staff sergeant in the Army, part of the 4th Infantry Division. They're called the Ivy because of the Roman numerals. He was on the beach at D-Day, and then he and his men were among the first to get foothold in Paris after breaking through Germany's 7th Army. He's even met Ernest Hemingway. He's a famous writer, you know. Hemingway was a civilian scout. My dad is in Paris for a bit now while he and his men are awaiting orders. He asked me to visit him until it's decided.
Well, I'm sure he'll be thrilled to see you. I wish you both the best of luck. And do thank him for giving old Jerry the boot, won't you?
I sure will. He's fought all sorts of Nazis. You should hear his stories.
I imagine he has a footlocker full of them.
I'm sure he does. I reckon he has even more now. I haven't seen him or talked to him in almost a year. Not since he called me on the telephone from Fort Jackson, South Carolina, sometime last winter.
That's a long time not to hear from loved ones. I sincerely hope it's a pleasant reunion.
Why wouldn't it be?
A lot can happen to a man over the course of a year, particularly in wartime. The horrors of war have a way of unleashing one's inner demons.
I'm sure he's fine. My father is tough. He can handle anything.
Well then, it seems you would have nothing to worry about.
No, sir. Everything is going to be A-OK.
This is your captain speaking. We're experiencing a bit of storm-related turbulence as we're approaching Orly. We will attempt to adjust our altitude to make the last bit of your flight more comfortable.
Oh, gosh. Is this sort of thing normal?
Oh, it's quite normal indeed, Miss Goodman. Nothing to fear. As you said, everything's going to be A-OK.
Oh, storm-related turbulence. That reminds me of this time I joined the Mad Scientist's Mile High Club and reanimated a corpse mid-flight in the airplane bathroom. It was quite exhilarating, I must say.
I'm sure it was, Horatio. And I'm also sure you needed something to calm your nerves after. And what better to calm your nerves than John Borman Kentucky whiskey? Yes, that smooth oaky flavor is guaranteed to soothe you at any time. Going to buy a new car? John Borman Kentucky whiskey will take away the edge. Job interview? The smooth John Borman Kentucky whiskey is just what you need to get your head in the game. Yes, John Borman Kentucky whiskey for the stressful times. And now, back to part 2 of The Eiffel Terror by Todd Gardner here on Horatio Dark's Between the Lines.
Welcome back to Authors of Authority. We're here with the incredibly charming Joan Goodman. So, there was turbulence, but I assume the plane landed without incident?
It did. I was ready to launch out of my seat. Knowing I was about to see my father was almost too much to handle. I ran off the plane like a rocket. And when they opened the bulkhead door,
Joni, there's my girl. Now give your old man a hug.
I've missed you so much, Dad.
I've missed you too, sweetheart. I almost didn't recognize you. You've grown so much. You've become a beautiful young woman. Now let's get your gear into the Jeep and get something to eat. I think I know just the place.
Great idea. I'm famished.
How was your flight, Joni?
It was a bit bumpy, but all in all, pretty good. I sat next to a really nice man from England named Basil Palmer. He seemed to be excited about all things Paris, especially the women.
Ha! That's not unusual. It's no secret the women of France are quite remarkable. Savvy, smart, fierce, and beautiful inside and out.
He also wanted me to thank you for your help kicking the Jerrys out of Paris.
Well, Joan, that was and is our sworn duty. A duty my men and I have been taking very seriously. Those nasty bastards need to be stopped. We might just have them on the run. However, we must stay ever vigilant. They are the worst kind of sneaky. They have eyes everywhere.
I understand, but golly, I'm just so proud of you, Dad. You're a real-life war hero. Now, where are you taking me?
We're going to Café Proco. It's the oldest cafe in Paris. I think you'll like it. Some pretty famous folks have been there.
Oh? Like who?
Oh, just some men named Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Paul Jones, and Voltaire. You know, just to name a few.
Wow, that's amazing.
It certainly is. But its true charm is its ability to remain a place where all sorts of thinkers, laborers, drunks, soldiers, and bright young ladies like yourself can rub elbows and get along.
I wonder if we'll see anyone famous there today.
I wouldn't think so quite yet. The city isn't quite back to its grandeur, but it's entirely possible. That being said, if we do see someone famous, I don't want you making any kind of fuss. No one appreciates gawkers.
Yes, Dad, I understand.
So, Joan, did you see anyone famous?
I did not, but it would prove to be a memorable day nonetheless. We arrived at the cafe a short while later.
Well, here we are. What do you think?
Well, I really like it. The red walls, the marble, it's just gorgeous. We don't have anything like this in Arkansas.
I just knew you would love it.
Monsieur Goodman, so good to see you safe and sound. Welcome back.
Thank you, mon ami. It's nice to see you as well. Then again, it's always good to be seen anywhere in these trying times.
You're too kind, mon ami. Okay, so I must ask, just who is this exquisite beauty that you walked in with?
This exquisite beauty is my daughter, Joan.
No, it cannot be. This is Joan? Oh, bonjour, Joan. I've heard so many great things about you. Très bon, très bon. It is nice to finally meet you.
You are just the sweetest. It's a delight to meet you as well.
I do hope the two of you are joining us for lunch.
Yes, please, Henri. I mean, if it's okay with you, Joan.
Oh, yes, please. This place is simply magical.
Magnifique. Andre, prepare a table for two. Merci, Andre. Merci. Et voilà. Here we are. Oh, Monsieur Goodman, I'm so sorry to inform you that there is most likely a rat in the kitchen.
I thought that might be the case. But please, Henri, not in front of my daughter.
Oh, but of course, Monsieur. Where are my manners? My apologies. Shall I bring some wine?
Yes, please, Henri. And bring the glasses.
2 glasses?
Joan, you're in Paris. Anyone can drink here. Besides, you're 16. You'll always be my little girl. But the reality is you're no longer a child. I won't be around forever. And since we lost your mother, I know you've had to take on a lot back home. I'm so very proud of the woman you've become. And know you're bound for great things in the future.
I love you, Dad, and I'm so happy to be here with you. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I'm also kind of excited to try the wine. That Basil character from the airplane simply raved about it.
Ha! Your friend Basil is 2 for 2. French women and French wine are truly intoxicating. So it's settled. 2 glasses, Henri.
Right away. Henri! Garçon!
Right away, Andre. Two glasses, Andre.
Dad? What did Henri mean by a rat in the kitchen?
I'd rather not talk about that yet. Let's just eat a nice lunch, and then I'll fill you in on everything, sweetheart.
That is a good question, Joan. What did Henri mean by a rat in the kitchen?
I didn't know, but as fate would have it, I would find out much sooner than I would have liked.
How so?
My father and I were enjoying our meal together, and I was so very happy. As I'd said, I hadn't seen him for almost a year, and yet here we were, sitting together in Paris. We were talking like no time had passed at all. He was a war hero, and he was my father. People in the cafe kept coming up wanting to shake his hand, hug him, kiss his cheeks. The scene was electric. I was so proud of him, and I felt lucky to be his daughter.
Oh, that's so very touching. I truly mean that. We should all be so lucky as to see our loved ones being lauded. But do go on. You say that the rat in the kitchen became known to you sooner than you would have liked?
Yes. In the midst of all this, a man in a gray suit had walked into the cafe, looked around, and began walking directly to our table.
Herr Goodman.
Yes?
Monsieur Goodman, look out! He has a gun! The Fuhrer sends his regards. Frau Goodman. Auf Wiedersehen.
Dad! No! No!
Monsieur Goodman! Merde! Andre! Fetch the doctor!
Joan! My sweet Joni! Take my amulet and my journal. All will be explained. Now run!
No, Dad. Shh. You're going to be okay. The shooter ran away. Just lie still. You can explain it all to me later. I'm not leaving you.
Joni, do as I say. You must go now. There's still so much to be done. I love you. Be strong.
Okay, Dad. Shh. I have the amulet and your journal right here. I love you too. You're going to be fine.
Joan, I mean it. Get out of here. Run as fast as you can. Right now. What you have is far too important.
Mademoiselle, he is right. You need to go right now. I'll stay here with your father. Go! We'll find you as soon as we can.
Oh, how terrifying! Where did you go? Was your father able to pull through?
He was not. That was the last time I saw him alive. I ran endless blocks. I kept zigzagging from boulevard to avenue. At some point, I ducked into an alley to catch my breath. I sat down behind some discarded boxes and kept my eyes peeled for any movement. After what seemed like an eternity, I left the alley and began walking. I had no idea where to go or what to do. Eventually, I wound up in front of the Saint-Étienne-du-Mont. I was emotional. I was tired. I felt sick to my stomach, and I wanted to pray for my father.
Oh, it would seem that the weight of the world had fallen squarely onto your shoulders. You must have been in total shock. What did you do next?
I went into the church, and even through panic, I was dumbstruck by this beautiful place. It was exquisite. It was bright and spacious. It had this gorgeous spiraling roof loft with 2 spiral staircases on either side that seemed to lead up to heaven itself. There were Baroque accents and examples of flamboyant Gothic architecture seen at every turn. The pipes of the organ shot up like beams of light with angels perched above them. We certainly had nothing like this in Arkansas.
I bet not.
As I walked around, I came across the wooden pulpit supported by intricately sculpted Samson with a jawbone in his hand and a slain lion at his feet. I also found myself standing agape at the shrine of Saint Genevieve in one of the side chapels. The shrine contained various reclaimed relics, and her sarcophagus, which had escaped destruction during the French Revolution. Saint Genevieve is the patron saint of Paris and defended her city against Attila and the Huns by the power of sheer prayer. She also acted as an emissary when the city was besieged by Childeric I, convincing him to release prisoners.
Oh, that really is quite something, Joan. I can't even begin to imagine how discombobulated and emotional you must have been. And yet, seemingly by accident, you found yourself surrounded by beauty and inspiration. Well, that's quite the juxtaposition.
Juxtaposition is the nature of Paris. I'm not convinced that it was entirely an accident. I do believe we're all meant to have certain experiences in certain places throughout our lives.
Quite true. Now, this may be insensitive or even gauche to ask, but why was your father so insistent that you take his journal and the amulet?
It's a reasonable question. While standing in front of her shrine, I was overcome with something best described as an epiphany. Saint Genevieve had defended Paris from invaders, and so had my father. They were both passionate about this city and the people in it. Even though they lived over 1,000 years apart, they saw something worth saving. My path was clear.
Beautifully put. You said your path was clear. What does that mean exactly?
Among my father's last words to me were, "There's still so much to be done, and to be strong." I'd lost my mother when I was very young, and now my dad was gone. In that moment, St. Genevieve became my everything. In the shadow of her shrine, I sat down. I leaned against her sarcophagus, and I began to read my father's journal.
How many times have I sat on a sarcophagus, slept in a sepulchre, picnicked on a pine box. They are quite the place for restful contemplation.
Well, I'd say that's a little more disrespectful to the dead, Horatio. But do you know what else hates the dead and everything else we hold sacred? Communism! How can you keep the communist menace at bay? With truth dollars! That's how. Your truth dollars fight communism in its own backyard. Behind the Iron Curtain. Give truth dollars and get in the fight. Support the war effort. Send your truth dollars to Crusade for Freedom, care of your postmaster. And now back to the thrilling conclusion of The Eiffel Terror by Todd Gardner here on Horatio Dark's Between the Lines.
Once again, welcome back to Authors of Authority. We're talking with the mesmerizing Joan Goodman. So, you opened the journal, and what did you find?
The first thing I saw was a note written by my father. It was addressed to whomever might find the journal in case my father died in battle.
May I ask what it said?
Of course. It read,
"To whomever finds this journal, it is likely that I perish in my service to God and country. I ask that you perform the smallest kindness towards my beloved daughter Joan and myself. Please send this volume with any personal effects to Joan Goodman, care of Camp Robinson, North Little Rock, Arkansas, 72199, USA. I've taped an American $10 bill onto this note to cover shipping costs. The pages within contain no secrets, as they are merely the sentimental ramblings of a proud father who does not wish to be entirely lost to his daughter. May this note find you happy, healthy, and in the enviable position of being surrounded by friends and loved ones. Sincerely, Staff Sergeant Thomas Goodman, U.S. Army 4th Infantry Division."
What a note! Your father must have been an extraordinary man.
Extraordinary is the perfect way of putting it.
Oh, how so?
As I flipped through the journal, his note was mostly correct. There were stories, descriptions, and sketches documenting his wartime experiences, all the things he knew I'd love. But then there was something else, something sort of hidden in plain sight.
What was it?
There was a detailed drawing of the amulet I had in my hand. There was also a small pencil drawing of a lemon next to it.
A lemon? How curious! Did lemons hold some sort of significance?
My father and I would sometimes write secret messages to each other using lemon juice as ink. His letters from the war contained blank pages and were akin to top secret missives.
Oh, I see. So the drawing of the lemon was like a signal.
Exactly. The lemon was an adorably clever way of letting me know that there was some sort of secret message meant for my eyes only. I used one of the candles from the altar to heat up the paper, and after a short time, the words just kind of appeared.
That's brilliant! What was the secret message?
As I'd suspected, this was a note to me. He started by describing how he'd come into possession of the amulet.
August 23rd, 1942. Dearest Joni, after being separated from my unit in a particularly nasty skirmish, I realized that being alone on moonlit streets in enemy territory was a terrible idea. I found shelter for the night in an abandoned curio shop. I imagined demand for dusty antiques was pretty lousy in a city where everything was covered in wartime dust. I began looking around the shop for anything useful, weapons, food, whatever I could find to defend myself in case I was discovered. There were shelves overflowing with trinkets, rings, toys, and various costumes, and some old rickety furniture. There was also a changing screen and a standing mirror in the corner. The best hiding space was behind a small counter along the back wall. It wasn't ideal, but it would have to do.
Oh, that must have been infuriating for him. But I'm assuming that the amulet was on one of the junk shelves?
Not exactly. He went on to write,
I was angry at my misfortune, and I lashed out by kicking a shelf containing some empty crates. As the shelf and crates crashed to the floor, something shiny caught my eye. There was a small metal amulet hanging from a leather cord. Apparently, it had been hidden by the crates. I took a closer look, and staring right back at me was a crudely depicted wolf. Its eyes were made of red gemstones that twinkled in the moonlight. The wolf's teeth were made from what looked and felt like inlaid bone. I turned it over, and there were 4 jagged parallel lines that emulated claw marks. The border of the amulet consisted of small circles and crescents. This was found on both sides and depicted the lunar cycle.
Ah, so now we're getting somewhere.
yes, but the entry got even more wild.
I'm all ears. Do go on.
I took the amulet off the wall, held it aloft, and declared myself to be the winner of the inaugural Mr. Lone Wolf Award of 1942. I raised the amulet above my head, and as if to complete the award ceremony, I put the amulet around my neck. That's when something truly beyond description happened. I felt a flash of intense heat where the amulet touched my skin. I was terrified, but when I attempted to remove it, my hands suddenly felt foreign to me. They were changing shape. They were stretching and contracting at the same time, creating something like the shape of a large paw. My fingertips split open as claws began to emerge. I felt the heat spread throughout the rest of my body as my legs became taut, like a slingshot pulled all the way back. My teeth began to grow inside my mouth. I ran my tongue over them and felt that they had sharpened. I ran over to the mirror in the corner, and to my horror, I saw that my face had been drawn tightly in some maniacal snarl. Hair had sprouted over my entire body, and my eyes changed color from brown to a pale yellow. I looked like some sort of crazed beast, but I was not crazy. My fear and the intense heat that had filled my body was suddenly and completely replaced with a feeling of calm and hyper-focus. I looked out into the street, and I could see everything as if lit by the sun. I was also bombarded by smells and sounds. It was as if every means of perception increased in sensitivity tenfold.
But that's unbelievable. Joan, you're not telling us that your father was becoming some sort of werewolf, are you? I mean, they don't exist.
There is simply no greater danger than to assume that we know everything that goes bump in the night.
Okay, point taken. So what happened next?
He apparently became dizzy and...
My body became overwhelmed. I staggered around trying to come to grips with what was happening to me. I remember leaning up against the counter and then fell to the floor. The next thing I recall was the next morning. At least I think it was the next morning. I woke back in the store. I was naked and covered in blood. The blood, as I discovered, was not mine. I was horrified to find various medals, insignia, and other ephemera that had belonged to at least 37 German soldiers. Apparently, the creatures inside me like to take shiny souvenirs.
That's ghastly! He killed 37 Nazi soldiers?
Yes. Well, 37 on that night. The journal went on to chronicle other evenings when the moon became full and how he'd learned to harness this power, to control it, and ultimately transform on nights where the moon wasn't full.
Joan, some of this is in your novel, but a lot of it is not. I'm literally at the edge of my seat. What did you do after reading this?
I closed the journal and looked at the amulet in my hand. It was about that time when I heard someone coming into the church, and they were calling my name.
Joan!
Who's there?
Joan! Joan, it is Henri! We've come to help you.
We? Who's with you?
Don't worry. I believe you've met him already. He is a friend.
Hello, Joan. I'm so sorry we're meeting under these circumstances again.
Basil? Is that you? What on earth are you doing here?
Basil is a friend to the cause. Your father assigned him to look after you on your flight here. Basil and I are part of the resistance, as was your father.
Was?
Was. I'm sorry, Joan.
Past tense, right? So, he's gone?
I'm afraid so. Mademoiselle, I'm so very sorry. He was truly a great man.
Yes, he is. Well, was. So, it's just me now?
We're here to get you to safety.
Safety? Does such a thing exist?
Pardon?
Safety doesn't exist. I've been in Paris for less than 24 hours and watched my father get shot by someone I assume is associated with whom you called the Rat. My father let his guard down for just a moment. He had the audacity to have lunch with his daughter and was killed because of it. I won't make the same mistake. I will be vigilant.
You are in shock. You should come with us.
You should listen to Henri. This city's not safe.
Henri, let me ask you something. Is tonight a full moon?
I believe so. But what does this matter?
Ah, good. I won't be joining you just yet. I have to go rat hunting.
Joan, be reasonable. The man you seek, he is armed and clearly a trained killer. Aren't you afraid?
I am not afraid. It seems I am destined for this. So, gentlemen, if that is all, I'll be on my way. There's still so much to be done.
Will you not reconsider?
I will not, because I cannot. My father deserves vengeance. And as Basil said, this city is not safe, Henri. Basil, I'll see you around.
But Joan, this is crazy. You do not know what you're doing.
Henri, let her go. We will not change her mind. Let's just hope fate is kinder to her from this point on.
You know, she is very much her father's child.
She's no longer a child, Henri. She's a woman with purpose. I think she'll be okay. She has the amulet.
This is true. Somehow I do not think this is the last we shall see of her.
I do believe you're right about that. She's smart, driven, and has nothing to lose. She will pick up right where her father left off. She will ultimately defend this city and everyone in it.
So, she is like a modern-day Joan of Arc, no?
Perhaps, but I would dare say more like Joan of Arkansas would be more accurate.
Oh, Joan! He did not!
He did. And the name sort of stuck. I became known as Joan of Arkansas, the Eiffel Terror.
It's admittedly catchy. Did you ever see Basil or Henri again? Did you ever catch the rat?
Yes, we crossed paths many times. And as to the rat, well, that's another story for another time. But I can say that he never orphaned another little girl ever again. With that said, I must thank you for the chat and bid you farewell. There's still so much to be done.
Oh, I understand. Goodbye and good luck to you, Joan. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your incredible tale with us. Join us next time as we interview another writer on Authors of Authority.
Oh, Todd Gardner. So, Joan's father was a werewolf. That is quite amazing. Oh, I remember when I found out one of my relatives was a werewolf. My Uncle Peter. We call him Patches now. Next time on Horatio Dots Between the Lines, meet George. He likes to gamble. He spends most of his time at the tables. His game, roulette. He's had a rather bad run of luck lately, losing game after game. His luck is so bad, he ends up taking a marker unlike any other. A marker with death! Find out what happens next time on Dead Man's Hand. Here on Horatio Dots Between the Lines.
You just heard The Eiffel Terror by Todd Gardner. Featuring V. Lee as the interviewer. Brendan Perry as Basil Palmer and the announcer. Basil. Eli Omega as Captain Leonard. Lizzie Travis as Young Joan. Emily Ward as Adult Joan. Hadasi Westbrook as Staff Sergeant Goodman. Give a British guy an Arkansas accent, and he does Bill Clinton. It's Southern, I don't know. Hell. Jeffrey Gangswich as Surveyor Henry. That's right. Mike Yance as the Rat, aka the Assassin. John Friedlander as Horatio Dark. Dave Marcoot, Ren Luby, Cohen Bateman on the Foley. And Justin Savy on sound. We're going to go ahead and have another 10-minute break here while they set up for the last episode of the evening. So go ahead, have a smoke, have a drink.